So let's get into another kind of annoyance. And it's one of my favorite guys on YouTube. He calls himself Jordan the Stallion. You can Google him. He does all of these videos about food. He knows the recipe for every sauce, you like the biscuits, the Red Lobster biscuits. He knows the recipe by heart. He writes them down and he's worked at every restaurant in the world. And he's a young guy. He's actually a professional. But before he got out of college, he worked at almost every restaurant you can think of. And he loves taking apart their recipes. So one of his videos that he did that was actually really funny, it was a 60-second short. He was talking about the fact that McDonald's has never been known for having the best food. It's always been that the food that they have is it's cheap. And if you are on a tight budget, college student just starting off at work, whatever the case is, and you need lunch, you could get enough food to fill yourself up or dinner, and it would not cost a lot of money. That the whole draw to McDonald's is the dollar menu. And so post pandemic and right in the middle of a high inflationary period, McDonald's has made some adjustments to the prices on their menu. And it's most stark in areas like Connecticut, where they're charging $18 for a Big Mac meal. And it has become like a really big deal online for people to comment about this. So there's these guys, they call themselves Later Videos, and they do commentary on pretty much everything under the sun. And they took notice of McDonald's prices going sky high. Take a look.
McDonald's customers think the chain has become overpriced. They think it's too expensive. I want to get your take on that. People, well, with inflation and everything, people are going on social media complaining about prices, and they're getting all kinds of action on that content.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, this is expensive. Hey, that's expensive. And people are like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Because, it's easy to get people on board with that. Who doesn't want things to be cheaper? But McDonald's price in general, and I don't know the last time you're at McDonald's, but like they go up a little bit.
Yeah, the value meal is, pretty expensive.
Well, they talking here a couple examples, like $16. For a Big Mac combo is $16.89. McCrispy sandwich combo $16.69.
Where is this? In Canada?
Spicy Deluxe McCrispy $17.89. I don't know. Play it. Let's try to figure out where it is. This complaint is via TikTok.
Does anybody see the prices of these combo meals? The prices of a Big Mac combo meal? $16.89? Y'all remember them stimulus checks that they gave out? Thought you was getting away with that stimulus money, huh? They want it back.
Well, that's kind of... Yeah, so...
Dude, that's expensive.
Listen, I don't know.
I don't think it's that expensive here.
I don't know where it is. It does vary from place to place, Will.
It does. It varies from place to place. And so it's not quite $18 here in St. Louis, but you are spending between $14 and $16 to get one full meal here in the St. Louis metro area. Similarly priced across the state of Missouri. Ask me how I know. Well, we have one McDonald's lover in our family. And so we still do actually stop in there. And I don't get anything. I usually get a smoothie, a strawberry smoothie. Or if the McRib is in season, which I heard the dastardly news that I guess they're never bringing that back. What is going on at McDonald's? Does someone who hates Americans work there now or in charge? Anyway, this big deal, the guy with the voice who was doing the short that the Later Video guys were watching, he hit the nail on the head. This is because we had all of those stimulus funds. And admittedly, when you talk about what Americans got in their hand during the pandemic, there were stimulus checks for $600 per person. There were stimulus checks for, I think it was maybe $750. So these are not huge amounts of money, but that's not the point. The point is they gave that money to millions of people. And there was another stimulus that people were able to get. And I actually didn't know about it because our kids are too old for us to qualify for this. But there was a payment in the pandemic per child. So if you had a child under the age of 18 that was still living in the house with you, not emancipated, for families who had 5 kids, 6 kids, this amounted to checks of $18,000, $20,000, $30,000 for larger families. For smaller families, it was still an infusion of thousands of dollars of cash. This was extra money on top of the earned income credit that was available to Americans who had kids living at home to help with the pandemic. So what does this mean? Thousands of dollars entered the economy, and they're not generated by work. These dollars are generated by the federal government making payments to people. When that happens, the extra money in the supply devalues all of the other money in the supply, which means that prices go up. And it's not a little uptick, it's a huge jump. Where a Big Mac meal would have been under $10 before, it is now $18 in Connecticut, 15 in Missouri. These are the new realities. Also, this was driven before the pandemic. The kind of setting of the table for this started when we saw we need to make $15 an hour if you're working at McDonald's as a minimum wage worker. You have to have $15 minimum wage. And that wasn't driven by companies. It wasn't driven by the free market system. It was driven by activists who were trying to force the government to impose that on businesses. So the big deal there is when businesses say, we want our new standard, like Starbucks did this. Their new standard was $18 an hour. That's the entry level pay at Starbucks. Now, admittedly, Starbucks barista is actually it's a complicated job because you have to memorize all of the recipes. So it's not exactly the same as flipping burgers at a Burger King, but that's their entry level point. So when the market does it and the money that's infused into the system is coming from work, that does not cause inflation. But when the government writes checks to people and gives them money, and they're able to take that money and spend it in the market without there being any work associated with it, that's flooding the system with extra dollars, devaluing the dollars that are already there and causing the higher prices. And so people are naturally upset about it. But the guy who was making the most, that he was the crux of that video there. He told all of us what has actually happened. The stimulus checks were written, they were cashed, and he says now the government wants its money back. It's not exactly the government that's getting its money back, but when all of our currency is devalued, it means we all have technically less money to spend. Because if you had $100,000 and the inflation goes up, your money is worth whatever the percentage of inflation is, it's worth that much less. And over time, the devaluation of money kind of makes things comical. Like yesterday on the show, I was mentioning that everything is in billions now. There are no line items in our federal budget that are millions anymore because we've moved out of the millions into the billions and will be there forever. That's kind of a sad reality, just like the $18 Big Mac. Next on now, Dan Schneider, Vice President of MRC's Free Speech America. He's going to discuss with me how Amazon caved to pressure from the Biden administration to censor books. Stay with us.